You know about the break-in. You know about the tapes. You know Nixon resigned. But what if I told you Watergate was just the tip of the iceberg? What if the burglary everyone talks about was actually the least important crime they committed? What if everything you learned in history class was designed to hide the real conspiracy? Welcome to Unresolved Casefiles. Before there was Watergate, there was the Plumbers. That's what they called themselves. A secret unit operating out of the White House basement. Their mission: stop leaks by any means necessary. But here's what they don't tell you. The Watergate break-in wasn't their first job. It wasn't even their 10th. They'd been committing crimes for Nixon for over a year. So what else did they do? September 3rd, 1971. 9 months before Watergate, the Plumbers break into a psychiatrist's office in Beverly Hills. Dr. Lewis Fielding. They're looking for files on Daniel Ellsberg, the man who leaked the Pentagon Papers. They ransacked the office. Photograph documents. Steal records. This is a federal crime, ordered from the White House. But it gets buried. For years, the FBI investigation is blocked. Why? Who protected them? Here's where it gets darker. The Plumbers weren't just gathering information. They were planning violence. E. Howard Hunt, one of the masterminds, later admitted they discussed assassinating journalist Jack Anderson, poisoning him, making it look like a heart attack. The plan was detailed. They had the poison, they had the method. So why didn't they do it? Or did they try and fail? Then there's Dorothy Hunt, E. Howard Hunt's wife. December 8th, 1972. She's on United Airlines Flight 553 from Washington to Chicago. The plane crashes during landing. 45 people die. Dorothy Hunt is among them. She's carrying $10,000 in cash. And here's what keeps investigators up at night. She was about to testify. She knew everything about the Watergate cover-up. She was demanding more hush money. 2 weeks later, she's dead. The official cause: pilot error, but was it? The crash investigation reveals something strange. Witnesses hear an explosion before the plane goes down. The cockpit voice recorder captures unusual sounds, but the full recordings are never released. Dorothy Hunt's body is found with a significant amount of money. Who was she meeting? What was she planning to say? And why did the investigation close so quickly? Let's talk about Operation Gemstone. You've never heard of it because it was designed to stay hidden. This was the master plan. Watergate was just one small piece. Gemstone included kidnapping protest leaders during the 1972 Republican Convention, using call girls to compromise Democratic officials, sabotaging campaign equipment, forging documents, creating fake news stories. This wasn't politics. This was a criminal enterprise run from the Oval Office. How much of it actually happened? Gay Gordon Liddy, the Plumbers' enforcer, presented the plan to Attorney General John Mitchell. A $1 million budget, charts, photographs, detailed operations. Mitchell's response: he said it was too expensive. Not that it was illegal, not that it was wrong. Just too expensive. So they scaled it down. Kept the crimes, reduced the budget. What does that tell you about how far they were willing to go? Here's something that disappeared from the history books: the Houston Plan. In 1970, 2 years before Watergate, Nixon approved a domestic surveillance program that would make the NSA blush. Illegal wiretaps, break-ins, mail opening, surveillance of American citizens, all without warrants. Houghton, Edgar Hoover, the FBI director, thought it went too far. When Hoover thinks you've crossed a line, you know it's bad. The plan was supposedly canceled. But was it? Evidence suggests the Houston Plan never really stopped. The techniques were just dispersed. Different agencies, different operations. Plausible deniability. The Plumbers used Houston Plan tactics. So did other White House units. Breaking into the Democratic National Committee wasn't an isolated incident. It was standard procedure. How many other offices did they bug? How many other files did they steal? We still don't know. Then there's the enemies list. 20 names on the original list. Journalists, actors, politicians, businessmen, anyone who criticized Nixon. But that's just the public list. Tyrrell list, the master enemies list, had over 10,000 names, and having your name on that list meant something. IRS audits, FBI investigations, wiretaps, denial of federal contracts. This was the government weaponized against American citizens. How many lives did they destroy? Let's talk about what's still classified. In 2012, the Nixon Presidential Library released the last batch of Watergate tapes, or so they claimed. But researchers found something. Hours are still missing. Not the famous 18.5 minutes. Different gaps, different dates, conversations that were logged but never released. National security, they say. But national security from what? A scandal from 40 years ago? What could possibly still be too sensitive to reveal? Here's something that should terrify you. The Chenault affair in 1968, before Nixon was even president. His campaign secretly sabotaged peace talks to end the Vietnam War. Anna Chenault, a Republican operative, told the South Vietnamese to boycott the talks, to wait for a better deal under Nixon. President Johnson found out. He had the evidence. Wiretaps, intercepts, but he kept it secret. Why? Because revealing it would expose how the NSA was spying on a presidential campaign. So Nixon got away with treason, and the war continued for 5 more years. 20,000 more Americans died. How is this not taught in every history class? The Pentagon Papers revealed that the government lied about Vietnam. But here's what they don't mention. Nixon didn't just want to stop the leak. He wanted to use the leak. His team planned to selectively release classified documents to smear Democrats. Forge some, alter others. Create a narrative that the Vietnam War was Kennedy and Johnson's fault. They had a whole operation ready. Why didn't they execute it? Or did they, and we just don't know? There's also the money. Everyone knows about the hush payments to the burglars, but where did that money come from? Illegal corporate donations, foreign contributions, laundered through Mexico, through dummy corporations, through Howard Hughes. Yes, that Howard Hughes, the reclusive billionaire, had deep connections to Nixon. His representative, Robert Maheu, funneled money to the campaign. But Hughes also had ties to the CIA, to the Mafia, to Castro assassination plots. Was Nixon just another piece in a bigger game? Let's talk about what happened to the evidence. After Nixon resigned, the tapes were supposed to be preserved, all of them. But during the transition, boxers went missing. Documents were shredded. Computer files were erased. The official story is that it was routine destruction of duplicates and drafts, but how do we know? Who verified what was destroyed? And why were researchers denied access for decades? Here's something that barely made the news. Chuck Colson, Nixon's special counsel, admitted to ordering firebombing of the Brookings Institution, a think tank in Washington. Why? They had documents from the Johnson administration that Nixon wanted. The plan was to create a fire, then have the plumbers pose as firefighters, go in, and steal the files. DD and Coulson says it was called off, but there's no way to verify that. And here's the thing, if they were willing to plan it, what else were they willing to do? The Saturday Night Massacre gets taught as Nixon firing the special prosecutor. But here's what's left out. Before that night, Nixon's team discussed alternatives, declaring a national emergency, suspending the investigation on security grounds, having the special prosecutor arrested. These options were seriously considered at the highest levels in the Oval Office. The only reason they didn't happen is because White House lawyers said it would guarantee impeachment. So how close did we come to a constitutional crisis that makes Watergate look tame? After Nixon resigned, the investigations continued. Sort of. The Church Committee looked into intelligence abuses. They found illegal CIA operations, FBI blackmail, NSA Azerbaijan. But the committee faced roadblocks at every turn. Classified documents they requested never arrived. Witnesses developed sudden memory problems. Some investigations were shut down before completion. National security, they said. But who decided what was too dangerous to reveal? And what are they still hiding? Here's the thing about pardoning Nixon. Gerald Ford said it was to heal the nation. But there's another theory. Nixon had dirt on everyone. The tapes included conversations with other politicians, with business leaders, with foreign officials. If Nixon went to trial, all of it would come out. The pardon wasn't mercy. It was self-preservation. How many people in Washington breathed a sigh of relief when Ford signed that paper? Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein are celebrated as heroes. And Hayworry. But here's what's strange. Deep Throat. Their source was Mark Felt, the number 2 man at the FBI. Why was he leaking? Some say it was conscience. Others say he was angry about being passed over for FBI director. But there's a third theory. Felt was protecting the FBI from Nixon's attempts to control it. This wasn't about justice. It was about bureaucratic warfare. Does that change the story? The Watergate burglars went to prison. But they didn't talk. Not really. E. Howard Hunt wrote books. G. Gordon Liddy did interviews. They hinted at bigger operations, darker secrets. But they never named names, never gave specifics. Hunt, on his deathbed, made vague claims about CIA involvement, about operations that went beyond Watergate. But he died before elaborating. Was he protecting someone? Or was he trying to rewrite history? Here's what keeps researchers digging. The pieces don't fit. A burglary to install bugs that didn't work. Cover-up attempts that drew more attention. Massive cash payments that could be traced. Either these were the stupidest criminals in history, or there was something else going on. Some say Watergate was designed to be discovered. A limited hangout. Sacrifice the small fish to protect the big fish. Expose one conspiracy to hide a dozen others. Is that possible? And what about the CIA? They claimed the Watergate burglars were former operatives. No current connection. But documents show CIA provided materials for the Fielding break-in. CIA officers trained the burglars. CIA safe houses were used for meetings. After Watergate, CIA Director Richard Helms was convicted of lying to Congress about cheating. So when the CIA says they weren't involved in Watergate, should we believe them? The NSA's role is even they had the capability to intercept everything. Every phone call, every telegram. They were listening to everyone, including the Watergate conspirators. Did they know what was being planned? Did they warn anyone? Or did they let it happen? The NSA's Watergate files remain classified to this day. What's in them that we still can't see? Nixon's legacy is complicated. He opened China, created the EPA, signed important civil rights legislation, but he also ran a criminal conspiracy from the White House, used government agencies as personal weapons, sabotaged peace talks for political gain. And here's the question nobody wants to ask. How much of the good stuff was just cover for the bad? How much of it was designed to build power so he could do whatever he wanted? The real lesson of Watergate isn't that the system worked, it's that it almost didn't. If Deep Throat hadn't leaked, if the judge hadn't been tough, if the reporters hadn't persisted, if the tapes hadn't existed, Nixon might have served out his term. Might have been remembered as a great president. The crimes would have stayed hidden. And the next president would have learned that you can get away with anything if you're careful enough. Did they learn that anyway? So here's what we're left with. A break-in that exposed a cover-up that hinted at deeper conspiracies that were never fully investigated. Thousands of missing documents, sealed files, dead witnesses. And a government that decided some truths were too dangerous to tell. Watergate didn't end when Nixon resigned. It just went underground. The tactics evolved. The technology improved. But the mindset remained. Power at any cost. Victory at any price. And if you get caught, destroy the evidence. If this investigation showed you that history is written by the survivors, not the truth tellers, hit subscribe. Comment which political scandal we should dig into next. And remember, the cover-up is never just about hiding what happened. It's about hiding what's still happening. This is Unresolved Casefiles, where the real story is always buried deeper than you think.